Moscow wasn't built in a day, and it will be destroyed gradually. The process has already begun. Ukraine's defense forces have started roasting the capital of the Reich over a slow but steady fire. What once seemed like a distant, small, victorious war has entered the lives of Muscovites and become a harsh reality.
What is going on? I don't understand anything right now. It hits right next to my house. This is just some kind of, what kind of nightmare is happening? Over there, everything just completely collapsed. And hit literally the very first entrance, not a crowbar.
Ukraine has launched mass production of long-range drones, and now they fly in swarms almost every day to see how Moscow still doesn't believe in air defense.
No, come on. What's wrong with that?
Drones have hit Moscow before. They scared the spoiled orcs in Rubliovka, chased the Vatniks into corners in the Moscow suburbs, and even paid a polite visit to the Kremlin. But now the strikes have become massive and regular. And Moscow is not just a political center, it's a huge military-industrial base and an aviation hub. When drones hit there, planes stop flying across almost the entire European part of Mordor. When the capital is under threat, they implement the Carpet Plan, which restricts flights, and Moscow's airports turn into one huge line for vodka.
And these are the kinds of lines you see. Well, that's what it's like at the main terminal.
There are a lot of people. There are a lot of delays.
Even when just a few drones attack, Moscow is forced to close its airspace because everyone knows how much Russian air defense loves to shoot down passenger planes and, in a panic, fires at anything. Not long ago, near Moscow in Tver, the orcs fired on their own transport plane, mistaking it for a Ukrainian drone. How can you mistake a huge transport plane for a kamikaze drone? Science has no answer. The phrase "a monkey with a grenade" now sounds more like a Russian air defense operator with a pantsir.
It doesn't actually hit. Though, in fact, it doesn't hit at all, not even once. The plane is smoking. The plane is smoking.
To say that the strikes on the capital region are causing mild panic would be an understatement. The panic there is off the charts. Electronic warfare units and mobile fire teams have already been spotted right at the Kremlin walls.
I want to say that the special military operation is proceeding strictly according to schedule, as planned.
Magnificent plan, Walter. Just if I understood correctly.
And so, little by little, the special military operation has shifted to the center of Moscow. The imperialists' minds are completely scrambled. After all, the great geostrategist started the special military operation supposedly to ensure the safety of Russians, but in the end, he put a target on all their foreheads. Now, it's not exactly comfortable to drink a latte at Chisty Prudy and ponder greatness to the sound of sirens and anti-aircraft gunfire.
I don't know, there's some siren here today.
Working in Moscow is also becoming less prestigious, especially if the companies are connected to the defense industry. In May, Ukrainian drones set fire to the Kronstadt plant near Moscow, which produces strike UAV, so to speak, fighting fire with fire. Things were also heating up at the Elma Technopark, which is a key scientific and production center for the development of electronics and microelectronics.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Because of the constant raids by effective drones, Muscovites are getting used to living without internet and mobile service, since electronic warfare systems start jamming everything indiscriminately. The arrival of even a single UAV can paralyze all of Moscow. Against this backdrop, due to the increasing frequency of Ukrainian drone strikes, the State Duma even proposed bringing back landline phones and radios in homes, as well as increasing the publication of print newspapers.
Now that's a twist.
It was the 4th year of the war. In Russia, they launched Instagram on birch bark, and messages on Telegram are literally being sent by telegram. Given the situation in Moscow, the story about installing payphones in the DPR no longer seems so funny.
A payphone built with the latest technology was installed in the center of Donetsk. The device is significantly different from its predecessors in every respect. Alexei Savichev will tell us in detail what makes this device so special.
This little electronic device can cut you off from the outside world at any moment. However, the best specialists in the Republic worked for many months to solve this problem. And they succeeded.
You can't forbid living beautifully. In terms of technology, the DPR is even ahead of Moscow. The very fact that Russia is discussing a switch to analog communication shows that they have resigned themselves to constant drone attacks and understand that the strikes will only intensify. Real panic has broken out in the swamps. The orcs have started writing that Ukraine is preparing to launch up to 1,000 UAVs per day. And when the drones break through the air defense, long-range missiles will fly through the gap.
Honestly, the enemy's capabilities have increased quite dramatically. Well, I regularly talk to a very large number of people who are directly on the front lines in the conflict, you know. Of course, to be honest, they use words that aren't suitable for broadcast.
That's understandable.
And they say the enemy has made a real qualitative leap, a very significant one. There are now long-range drones of all kinds appearing. And most importantly, the numbers have increased dramatically.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Ukraine has already launched serial production of its own missiles and has also conducted ballistic tests.
It was also explicitly ordered to provide for the allocation of separate funding for our Ukrainian ballistic program in order to further accelerate missile production as well. As a matter of priority,
the Kremlin is genuinely frightened and doesn't know what to do. He even made his Shrek whine at the UN, claiming that evil Ukraine is constantly attacking peaceful little Russia.
as long as Kyiv continues to try to prolong the war and provoke Russia by striking residential and civilian infrastructure on our territory, we will continue our special military operation.
So, yet another objective of the special military operation has emerged. It turns out that Russia invaded Ukraine in order to defend itself from bombings. L stands for logic, O stands for absent.
Happy end.
Our Western allies have also prepared a surprise for Moscow and Muscovites. Finally, Germany, France and Britain have announced the lifting of restrictions on the use of their long-range systems against the territory of the Russian Reich. We are eagerly awaiting the Tauruses. These cruise missiles have a range of 500 kilometers and are capable of penetrating concrete bunkers. It's possible the Tauruses have already been delivered, we don't know, because the German government has classified its military supplies to Ukraine. Most likely, the occupiers will be the first to find out that the Ukrainian armed forces have these cruise missiles.
As far as I know, and this is what I stated yesterday, the countries that had imposed range restrictions have long since abandoned those conditions. That's why yesterday in Berlin I described what has been relevant for months, namely that Ukraine has the right to use the weapons supplied to it beyond its own borders against military targets on Russian territory.
The Taurus missiles haven't even arrived yet, and the Kremlin is already blowing up. Medvedev, born of Hawthorne, started threatening missile strikes on Berlin in his usual manner. Propagandist Simonian was bleating about it too. Peskov also got overly agitated and declared that allowing strikes on Russia is further provoking the war.
Oh, come on.
And we always thought that provoking a war meant an armed attack on a neighboring country, occupying territories and destroying entire cities. Apparently, Peskov believes that bombing Ukrainian cities doesn't count as provoking a war. By that logic, strikes on Moscow must also be a completely peaceful act.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 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 absolutely.
The Z supporters are already spreading panic that the German Taurus missiles will simply have their markings changed and be presented as Ukrainian missiles. We don't see any problem with that. Changing the nameplate doesn't affect the combat characteristics. As expected, the Kremlin's hysteria didn't scare anyone. Moreover, the Chancellor of Germany stated that he plans to allocate funds to Ukraine for the development of its own cruise missile with a range of 2,500 kilometers. The life of Muscovites and other lapped and footed animals will become even more colorful and interesting.
The range should be unlimited, given the technologies that today's development of the military-industrial complex allows. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's Novosibirsk or Kaluga or here in Bryansk and so on. We have the right to say, and we have said, we fire exclusively at military targets, at facilities that are involved with and assist the terrorists in carrying out their terrorist actions, so to speak, on the territory of another country.
Many Russians, especially those who are residents of the capital city, believed that the war would not have any impact on their daily lives. They assumed they could simply ignore it, nod along with whatever was shown on TV, and not concern themselves with politics, that they could bomb Ukraine with complete impunity and that nothing at all would ever happen to them as a result. But with the distinctive buzzing of drones, reality arrived, and life in the swamps will never be the same again.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.